and no one else in the American League West is just blowing our doors off.
Well, and so I guess that, I know y'all are talking, I was getting some stuff ready here. I always wonder, because y'all were mentioning back in the day, and used to, the Rangers were like the greatest show on turf was for the Rams. They might have a 16-15 game just because they hit somebody, and always look good up until July will be here before we know it. What point? Because I said this right. At 5.5 games, it's not a lot, but it's starting to trend down the escalator, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you still trade, but then keep your? How do you make yourself better for now to not throw this season away, but also make yourself better for next year? Because I was at some friend's house last night. I don't know if the Nobles are watching or listening yet. The Texas Tech and the Texas game got bumped a little bit because of what. I said, well, I thought the year we won it, nobody thought we would be on the growth, building off of, have a good 2023 and then win in 20. Understand why you win it in 24, because winning it back-to-back in any sport is difficult. But we kind of felt like this year, if you got the pitching, which we've got, and you just mentioned the stats, we talked a few weeks ago, three of the Rangers pitching. At what point do you start panicking or whatever, and can you still trade and make yourself better? And is Odolis going to be on the block?
Well, the Rangers have some assets, and Tyler Mahle is chief among them. I mean, he's a free agent at the end of the season. So if things don't, we're still in this limbo. Are we going to sell? As you mentioned, we've got till the end of July for things to fall into place, and then people can make those decisions. But the Rangers have a few tradable assets. If selling this year becomes what to do, and but do you want to try to give up anything for the future? With the way this team stands right now, like if you're anybody in the minor leagues, how much would you be willing to trade to try to make the team better, and where would you try to focus that? Obviously the bullpen needs some help, but the lineup can't string things together. So, like, who do you move around there? And you mentioned Garcia. They gave him an extended rest period. He didn't play for, I believe it was 4 games in a row. So they just allowed him a mental break to reset. Earlier they sent Jake Berger to the minor leagues to do the same. Berger has played to his normal level, I guess, since he came back. Adolis has now played, I believe it was 3 games since they gave him the 4 games off. And he's had only 3 games, which is good. But now it's going to keep it going.
It's early. We still have a month and a half until trade deadline. Year 3, amazing that runs given up. Only 2 teams below them in offense. One Colorado Rockies and Pittsburgh Pirates are the other, but I just don't see that for the entirety of the season. I would love to think this offense is going to turn around. You're only 5.5 out. Yeah, it's been a struggle bus the first 2+ months. But
I agree completely. And like I said earlier, the pitching is good enough to get on a win 9 out of 10 games type of run. See something that's just really kind of special. The one kind of rough spot. Rocker came back off the DL, had done well. Some games, not other games. His return did not go very well, so they sent him back to the minor leagues. And he had one of those things that really bothered me, and I can understand why they would send him to the minor leagues. I don't know if y'all saw, there was a play that he tried to cover first base, didn't get the out there, kind of got huffy and wasn't paying attention, and then a run scored. It was just little league stuff. Lose your what's the right word that I'm trying to, just lose your concentration to the point that you just
it's kind of like if you were lazy to go get a ball that you thought was just pass, you thought there's no way the guy's going to go to second.
Right.
And then he notices that you're lazy, and all of a sudden they take off the second, and they're yelling at you, and then you throw it to second, and he goes out in the outfield. He comes to third.
Sounds like you have experience with this.
Ironically, I've watched the Rangers do this to lose a game. We got about a minute, and you mentioned a team, and that's the Pirates. Paul Skeens is probably one of the best pitchers in baseball. He's thrown like amazing innings, and the Pirates can't score, and he finds a way to get the help. At what point does Pittsburgh say, hey, we've got this guy, maybe we need to see what we can get for him, or is he so much of a attention getter and a draw that you got to keep him in the house?
They have to keep him, and that was actually something that their GM was asking. I saw this because of the Pirates game. I know because they'll tickets really cheaply. That's the thing. I guess no one goes to their games. But
it's like when Caitlin Clark's playing, like when Paul Skeens is playing, tickets are great.
Right, and that's the thing. I get their emails, and so every game that's coming up that he's pitching, they send an email. Skeens is on the mound. Come watch. But so all that to say that yes, they could get a boatload for him if they traded him. But he is obviously young. He's under team control for several more years. And the outcome of them trading him would be a fan revolt that they literally could not withstand. It would be the Lucas thing.
It would be got rid of the set connected to our PS5, and now you've taken the PS5 away, and we don't have internet. We can't even watch it.
One thing they will.
Yeah, small market team, you have a face of the league.
Yeah.
You gotta hang on to it.
One guy that they will trade though is Andrew Heaney. He's pitching very well for them, and he's not going to be a long-term solution. So
and the Rangers don't need any more pitching unless they just got bullpen help or whatever. But I just didn't know if there's something that would be beneficial for them. They left this morning at 6, or last night at 6:30.
yeah, and then drove straight into the tornadoes.
Yeah, they're going to pack speed, right? So they went right to 11.
That's what Leanne was while we were watching that softball game. Leanne was like scrolling Facebook, looking at all their stuff, and then
Where y'all at?
I saw all that was going on in Lubbock, and so I started texting all the people I knew there, making sure that they were.
Again, the phone's not coming to the board, so I've had you on my cell phone if y'all want to do it. We may not do the whole segment, but just do a little update.
Like, this big around.
Do I?
In the backyard, the tail hitting the pool, splashing. What's y'all's target?
All right, so if I put your phone on my mic, so I can move what? We got three spots. So on the source selections, if XEXT, should I put? Let me see this first. All right, there we go. So it's got to be for this. Okay, we're great. This is the last spot. The Hodgeback Sports Live and everything in between. For our big country electric miner, we know in a great organization. Camp Able, the Buffalo Run Adventure Challenge began last night, and one of our very own, you hear him in the afternoons, Texas Two-Step and the Drive at 5, Happy Hour, all the things. Joining us on our Pest Control phone line somewhere in the state of Colorado is Greg Austin. Greg, how's the journey going? We're talking some sports between. We got Andy and Josh, Mission's out. Come back, man. I feel like we might be smoking the bandit, have a rough CB signal. All right, we lost Greg. We're going to try to call him. He knows the number. We talked about the Buffalo Run. We say that we would my house across town and say, take care of the $750 car, it should be fine. And based on the journey that many of them do, they do get there and back.
There's always a few that break down. I know my wife was last night as we were watching softball, kind of showing me some videos and some other. And there was at least getting hooked up. So somebody's race was cut short about Slayton. So make it maybe a less than a quay. I don't know, but finding a car and doing all part of the whole adventure. But I feel like you got to find the right car. It has to be. I don't know.
Got big booty Cody Cox's kids are driving. Cody and I got to do Marty and McGee last Saturday from Big Booty Judy, and he said I got to get a TV hooked up and all this. I think in the Petro phone line, they're in the school and they got Cameron. I mean, Josh, you're tall, but Cameron Wiley. I mean, he's the length of that short bus, and so $750 for the cost of the car. But I think the big thing is you still got to have some comfort.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're driving a whole heck of a long way, and it's something that I've always. I don't know if I've talked about this on the radio before, but I had this this life goal that I really was disappointed that I haven't worked this out yet. But I had this plan that I was going to buy a car, something that driving like north, because it would get cooler the farther I went. And I was figured this car would be very poor as far as air conditioning, which I'm in need of. And so, yeah, and so I was going to drive this car until it like just gave up. I was going to leave it and like get I don't know, plane some way just back home. So this adventure race is kind of like that, but you get to do this all with your buddies and everything else. So yeah, I really do want to do it. And like I said, if the car breaks down, I'm just leaving it. But
well, I've seen
maybe call the 1-800 Cars for Kids and say like, hey, you can pick this up. It's on the side of the road. The title's in the glove box. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it's somewhere in Arizona. It's not just around the Texas area. It's in Arizona. And again, this route is I think some of them should be making the turn, heading back. I'd say somewhere in Colorado, that you would make sure that if you do break down, owns that way where
sit out the pain, like here's my location.
Search and rescue gets notified that they got to come find you some. And did you see, y'all mentioned the tornadoes and stuff, I guess that was in other. But then a couple of days ago, they had a picture that it was snowing up at Pikes Peak. Like part of it, like they were getting there because how much snow that they like. I said that I know the Lord knows everything, but it's June. Taking off. I think it would be such a fun deal, and it's just one of those. Josh, and I think me, you, and Misty could make it work. You'd have to be the mechanic. I'd have to be I don't know what I'd be.
I don't know.
The entertainment, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think maybe we'd have to invest in a CB so you could just talk to random people on a CB. I don't know if people talk on CBs anymore, but that was something that I remember back in the day just doing that, like driving down the road and just get on the CB and see if you could find somebody to talk to.
I think that would be. I'm curious, or if any of our trucker friends or anybody that still have them, because I'm pretty sure our co-op guys now have, and Big Country guys, co-op folks, still have some type of radio phone more than just the. I remember that word. I mean, it was the regular old had a handle and all that thing. That I'm not going to make that many question because I am going to do that since she's gone, so we can still give a shout out to Mulligan. What do you think your handle would be?
I don't know. That takes a lot of planning.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be her. The Bandit and Willingness and Biggie.
That's. I would have to think on that one.
Shepherd the Lost Sheep. Shepherd's Lost. There you go.
Yeah.
You would have to be sure you took one as much as possible. that wasn't taken.
It can't be too long, because you have to say it all the time, you know, so it's like, gotta be concise.
See, other than, is that the year mechanic?
Well, I think at some point, all three are gonna have to be, I mean, eastbound and down, loaded up in trucking. That's a lot of driving.
It is a lot of driving.
Could you drive all 1,000 miles?
I don't know. I mean, I've driven to, like, Colorado, I'm like, it's just a matter of how you're gonna stop and everything else, yeah, so.
Down all the way. So, anyway, Buffalo Run taking off. We lost, he texted, he was able to text, said that they are 2 miles high, around a mile. So they're getting after it. Their team, you can go to their Facebook page, Lamborghini 2. You're going to donate to them, or just find one of your favorites on the Abilene Buffalo Gap Adventure Challenge. Go to their Facebook page. You can see them, look at it now down to Sandon. They had a cost on their vehicle, in Idlewood. So a lot of people still race. Always said racing is a felony, so that's why we have been. All right, we'll be back. I'm going to do my best to open up Michigan's bag.
Have you enjoyed the Toasted Live experience?
Lost signal. Get all those. Yeah. Just drop it.
Kind of crackly when you had it. Could try them again, I guess, during this segment.
What's your summer like?
I'm still working. It's actually kind of my busy time, believe it or not. So, ownership stuff for next school year.
Right,
So,
makes sense.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I assumed you didn't just have.
really May to July, kind of my busy time.
Yeah.
End of the year annual meetings with sponsors. So, reviewing the past year, making sure they're soliciting some new stuff. Actually, called, blank her name, this marketing lady out of
I don't know her name, but that's something.
Lori?
can't think of her name off the top of my head.
To her one time, sorry.
A lady named Gloria that went to work for First Bank. She was a co-op and went to work there.
Yeah.
What she does is a community.
Well, I used to see her here. She was kind of
Right.
Tracy finally said, why don't you just call her directly?
Yeah.
What's your office?
Yeah.
Oh, across the street over here?
Yeah. Well,
Ken, is Ken still there?
no. That turnover is Ryan. There. Mm-hmm.
figure out. They want us to do the concession stand race. I would just let Barrett, Molly, and Luke run that race if they could fit in their outfit.
That would be funny. They're turn 7 this month.
Okay.
But
I just don't think they want to see if the AED has to work at the Bison race for me to run. They may not even know where it's located.
Valpo.
I don't know how far it is. I think it is. But it should never be that far. Well, I don't know if I could run it for us. Well, I'm pretty proud of my little mulligans back here. Welcome back to the live show. Hour number 1. With us again as we're getting ready to wrap up. We always wrap up. Again, it is Misty's Bag, brought to you by Mulligan's. Be sure Mulligan's Sports Bar, Grill, and Golf. Great place to hang out, great patio, all the things they got. Jindo on Monday, karaoke on Tuesday. And they've got a few events coming up. One big event coming up, and a buddy of mine, Terry Hagler, is helping put together benefit for Houses for Healing, $200,000 hole-in-one shootout there at Mulligan's, $20 per bucket. From 9 to 5 p.m. $3 all benefits going to Houses for Healing. Appreciate they're working on building a house there, and so head over to Mulligan's anytime. Great food, but June 14th will be the hole-in-one shootout, $200,000 chance to win that. You ever made a hole-in-one?
no.
No, very close.
I've made 2, but I've never had one that was worth $200,000. And whoever thought the idea was that if you make the hole-in-one, you got to buy the rounds and buy the drinks for everybody. I've got a theory on how that happened. Somebody made a hole-in-one. The partners that they were playing with were jealous and said, "Yeah, congratulations, man, you ought to buy us all drinks." And he said, "Sure, that sounds like a good idea," because I'm not thinking clearly. I just made a hole-in-one.
Sounds
Yeah. Anyway, here's the question about. I'm stealing it a little bit. I can't think of his name, and I'm disappointed. But
so you're plagiarizing. You can't even get all right.
I will give credit. I'll look it up. Well, no, I'm tweaking it. He said, I'm throwing it out. What are your top 3 coolest helmets in the NFL?
All right, yeah. I like the old school Denver Broncos back when they were like orange and blue. You know,
Very good.
like that's
With,
what
like the Bull Durham D with the
yes,
Bronco.
with the Bronco,
I agree with that.
that was always one of my favorites. Let's see, that's who else would I go with? Because, well, you also like get old school with the old Patriot, like God snapping one that I always liked.
I think that is one of those leader in the clubhouse because. So I'm not saying you stole both of mine, but you have got my 2 that would probably be 4 and 5.
Okay, all right.
So you've
got a lot of thought process in this. If you already have 5.
Well, I mean, I've got 3. I got
two,
3, and those 2 are.
They're not there. Let's see. What else would I go with that?
Some people are going old school too.
Well, yeah, it's just what popped into my head.
Because I got 2 that are old school.
All right, well, you go ahead. So, no, I need some time to think, so I'll let you.
Well, one's down south. You got to go with the Houston Oilers.
That's
Yeah.
my number 1.
Yeah, Houston Oilers. Just and I don't know if y'all remember the days. The Cowboys always played at noon, and the Oilers always played at 3, and that just brings back great memories of that. But so Houston Oilers, that's on there, and then you got to go Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? The old school Buccaneers.
Yeah.
That's on the list, too.
That was a cool helmet that was a very terrible
Very
football
bad
team.
team. Yep.
And I don't know if I ever caught it. You know, a lot of times the Titans have worn the Houston Oilers old colors and all that. I'm trying to think, if the Buccaneers aren't doing that on their throwbacks every once in a while, they're missing.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
missing out because
I think it's a shame that, I know the Titans moved and, all of that. I think it's a shame that somehow the NFL, like the Cleveland Browns left and then came back and they're a different franchise, but they're still the Cleveland Browns. Why couldn't they have done that in Houston? That's something that's always bothered me. And at least I guess the Houston Cougars go
Powder blue.
wear the Oilers colors sometimes. So I always think about the Oilers also, but man, I don't. So I'm gonna let Hodge talk for a second while I'm still.
so mine is the Oilers. I think that is the best helmet on anything. I don't care what sport, what college. I think the Houston Oilers, and I agree with you. And I go back to, and I know every new high school, because they want to be safe, it's either Liberty, Legacy, or Memorial. But then you go to the opportunity to name your mascot. And to me, Houston failed. I know you probably didn't have the rights to the Oilers because the Tennessee Titans kept that. Fine. Be the Pump Jacks. Be the anything. Be the Gulf Coasters. Anything but the Texans. And they missed it on that. Now, this is going to sound pretty bad, but I do think, and I don't know if it's because of the Montana years, but the San Francisco 49er helmet, pretty solid.
You're right. I mean, that
Right, wrong, different day, which should come back. I'm going to probably make it 6-3. The Washington Redskins helmet was pretty.
I was gonna that old schoolness, but I'm always with uniforms. Like team perennial successes that have tradition and history are good, never change their jerseys. And like the Steelers and the Cowboys both fit into that, like it's the same forever. And so I kind of like that. The Redskins were that if the thing and go the football team.
But even when, and I go back to this, as the commander, you didn't get creative.
No, their logo is just
For those, again, part of the Dallas Cowboy Radio Network, I'm looking at the Cowboys schedule, and you look, and obviously they play the Commanders twice, and it's just a W. I mean, the Broncos changed theirs. The horse now on the side, they at least made it, down, did they upgrade? No, because I think they should have the original D and all that. But they at least try to make it, and I'm just not a fan of the other. Now, again, when it comes back to the NFC East, the old which spelled out better than the NY.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that. Oilers, I'm a big fan. What did I say? My other one? Oh, the 49ers. And then I think the Raider helmet is still pretty wonderful.
Oh, the Raider helmet is cool. It is. I also think that the Buffalo Bills, just that buffalo, which is funny because it's like that's the mascot, but that's the town, and like, how does that work?
And what is a bill?
Yeah, like it's
You like the red one or the white one?
the white one.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
But
It's hard to watch the old, well, it's not hard to watch the old Cowboy Super Bowls because that's the last one they won, but it's hard to look at the red Bills helmet.
the Red Bills helmet, no bueno, but the white one I think is cool.
Yeah, and one that, the Dolphin helmet, I mean, the Dolphin helmet is still kind of cool, the little Dolphin doing this trick to Ace Ventura. But I do think, and I guess I'll go to that in the football helmet, is that the coolest sport equipment There is. Like tops, baseball jerseys, tops, NBA or basketball jerseys, tops, bats, or anything like that, or now the other mitts that need to be wore. Is the football helmet the coolest thing?
It's right there with the bat. Like, if you had an autographed, baseball bat, game used bat, or an autographed, real football helmet, as far as memorabilia goes, it's a coin flip between which I would rather have.
Back in the day, when I was a kid, I always wanted the plastic helmet, so I'm going with the helmet.
Yeah, I think the helmet. The only thing that might come in second place, which ironically now they look the same, is when the baseball catchers went from the regular metal umpire mask to the hockey goalie mask.
Not all of them do. Some still just backwards helmet.
Jake Taylor from Major League. Yeah. So anyway, hey, let us know if you're watching on Facebook Live. Put it in the chat. Send us a Facebook message or a tweet, X, or send us an X, whatever it's called now. What do you think is the coolest football helmet in the NFL? And I know some of you won't listen and you'll put college in. We'll be okay with that too. When we come back, it'll be time for our Abilene Flying Bison report, talking to a former Bulldog, a former Warhawk, and now Abilene Flying Bison.
Are they on the road today?
They're coming back. They're coming back.
Oh yeah, I knew that.
I played Texarkana last night. 22 last night.
Yeah. And I'll be so we can all make sure that we're still rolling in there.
I took the day off of work yesterday and just did like yard work as well, way behind,
Right. Because boys are playing baseball still.
Yeah.
And so my Saturdays have been, since baseball season started, just been I'm on the board for the Little League, and so I was always set up the field.
You are playing tomorrow, right?
Yes, we play tomorrow and Sunday, and then we're done. So my Saturdays have been very full.
Yeah.
So I'm just just behind on just yard work. Got an 8-pound maul, like a big 8-pound axe, basically, and busted some stones that were out. Try to mow it. They were just high enough that you have to be real careful. You hit the mower, Gosh, it's just like I just want to lay down. You turn 36, and suddenly it's like, which makes it. Oh, you're on the phone. Sorry.
All right, I'll begin.
Because I used to late 20s, early 30s, you just have these thoughts. It's like I never got anything, but I feel like I'm still as good as I ever was. And you
don't have the radio on, do you?
Major leaguers, NFL guys, they get to low 30s, and then it starts to go away, and they have to select few that can make it.
Yeah.
And then I hit like.
Because it's like coming in.
Which makes me just have that much more appreciation for the people that are still playing baseball at 39.
Yeah.
A couple more commercials.
Yeah. Our youth group, dads versus kids, picking a basketball game last night. For a long time, I feel it. So it takes a while.
Yeah. Yeah, it's on their page.
Who's coming to town? All right, we got, and then we'll be ready. So when are you joining the team? Yeah, we'll talk about just, experience last year, talk a little bit to resting up a long baseball season with Murray. We'll talk kind of what's left and all that kind of stuff. There'll be softball questions, easy questions. All right. What?
You said they'll
They did good. They finished 8th. They finished 8th. So,
eighth in the whole deal.
It is time for hour number 2 of the Hodgepodge Sports Line 20. We're glad that you're with us on our pet for our family. Joining us on the Patrol phone line is getting ready for a second career at McMurray, but joining us on Riley Hood. Riley, appreciate you taking time. So Riley, let's talk about it. You mentioned it earlier when we were talking. It's kind of been a year. It's been a long and great, rewarding year for you, baseball-wise. We'll talk a little bit more. You still got more baseball in you. But talk a little bit about as we look at the Abilene Flying guys. First of all, we look at taking partnership, his college career, and then jump right into the WNBA. How are you feeling body-wise after playing a lot of baseball this past spring? So flying by, the organization was pulled and brought baseball back to Abilene last and had a great year. Won a ring up just a little bit short of winning it all, but a pretty good experience. And talk about the experience and why year 2. And you talk about, just brag a little bit about how well Abilene kind of came on board for as home field advantage. Great crowds and the atmosphere that happens at Walter Hagersfield, which you're with over there on the hot corner. How having that support up? And again, they are rolling a big win last night over Texarkana, 22-5. Andy was looking it up big, ninth inning. Right now, 9-2, just a game back of the Sherman 16-win series starting tonight. Great baseball being played by the Abilene Flying Bison. Let's talk, Riley. Because of everything that happens in college baseball, you still have some baseball left, not only with the Bison. What is the rest of the summer? You mentioned you're going to join the team on the second half of the run. What does it look like for Riley Hood between now and then and when the season's over?
Well, I would like to create another year of college eligibility. Right now, I think I will be
So what does the portal experience look like? A, I wasn't as good an athlete as you, and B, the portal wasn't around in 1996 when Skinny Hodge was still able to shoot some hoops. So what does the portal experience look like?
It's not the national place everybody thinks it is.
And one of the things that get to play at McMurray, career at McMurray, how do you think being able to do that at the McMurray level that may have not got noticed, not so much that it didn't get noticed or it's such a different that you guys, and we talked to you a couple weeks ago, have been able to do for McMurray will help with the portal recruiting process? The time to join us for our Abilene Flying Bison report. Again, the Bison will be back in as Fort Smith comes to town. Again, tonight, big weekend. Stand looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 home games in a row. So you have no excuse. Go get those tickets. Riley, I appreciate you taking the time this morning. Enjoy that time off, and best Bison year, and of course, what happens in the fall. Again, Riley Hood in the portal, taking a little bit of a break, but we'll be back at the third base hot corner for the Flying Bison in the second half of the season. When we come back, there is a national championship coming from Oklahoma back to Texas, regardless, tonight. We'll talk about that and some of the rules that are absolutely done. We'll be back. Right.
There's like 3 or 4 playing.
Riley should get a look. I mean, he just let the, yeah. He did 400 something, 440.
Well, and so something changed. What was it that, I guess, is it the JUCO rule that's allowed them to have more?
Yeah, JUCO doesn't count against you, and they backlog that too. So if he played JUCO, he got those years back.
Yeah, which is one of the dumbest rules that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
But and then especially like grandfathering it, or not grandfathering it, like you were out of eligibility. Oh wait, now you've got it here.
Yeah, yeah. Those guys,
You're gonna, especially since you can get while you're in college,
Yeah.
you're gonna just people just around.
playing Division I athletics now. I mean, you got to go through the minor league system now. I mean, it's a farm system.
Yeah.
And you'll get your chance in 23, 24.
Crazy is that you and all these other people have become the system
Oh, yeah.
now for the Power 5 or Power 4 now.
That is you're gonna see premier high school talent go to schools that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Friendship. Just had a great senior year. Fire gets him to come out early. Or longer, and he gets to spring practice. They needed on spring practice. One comes out, another kid transfers to the farms. This kid, I feel bad. When he goes to tech, never seen it.
Yeah. And gave up half of his senior year to go do it.
On his baseball picture, he gave up the senior year. Did you see the instruction in the high school state championship? No. They got a rundown. Third and home. Catcher's running him back there. And peels off. He's in the infield grass. Stops. Takes direction, starts coming. Catcher's in the infield grass. Over. Catcher in the grass. They call it instruction.
On the catcher?
Yes, and you gotta go to Dave Campbell's on YouTube. I mean, not on YouTube, on Facebook. Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Obstruction.
This is on what? That one was on what?
Dave Campbell's Texas Football on Facebook.
That is one of the worst calls I've ever
It's
seen.
about 3 posts down, and it says in the caption, it says, "Of course, this is obstruction." But I mean, like, look, he peels off in the grass.
The batter went out of his way to run into it.
Yeah.
Texas football, same.
There you go.
No, I'm just saying, I'm trying to find it on here.
Dave Campbell's Texas Football on Facebook. You got Facebook?
We are bringing the action to you. Hodge, Josh, and Andy Finney, live here in our Potosi Live studio, again, brought to you by Lotto Land and Cattle. Don't forget, we had Riley Hood just earlier on with our Abilene Flying Bison report. Don't forget, June 12th, Hodgeback Night, out at the Abilene Flying Bison next Thursday, June 12th. Be sure you check it out as we get ready for Hodgeback Night next week. Of course, again, they start a 9-game home stand tonight. So be sure to get your tickets and check out and go check out the Flying Bison, who are line 16 winning streak in just a game. Speaking of what's happening along the world, we talked in our Oriental Headline Report about how a lot of sports are happening, and when we went into the break, there is a national championship that will be a trophy that will leave Oklahoma City tonight and will either be heading to Austin or heading to Lubbock, as the Texas Tech Red Raiders and the University of Texas Longhorns are in the College Softball World Series. And Game 7 normally is the best words in sports, but Game 3, when it's a best of 3, is pretty cool words as well. And this series has lived up to the hype.
You know, I've got probably a personal connection, obviously being a Texas Tech alum, but to me, the last 2 nights, and I think tonight too, is must-see TV. It's been a great series. I think Nash Kennedy, the pitcher for Tech, who's had so much publicity because of her. The fact, I know softball's different, that she's thrown every pitch in the College World Series, and then prior to that, to get them to the Women's College World Series over the last 3 weeks of tournament is something spectacular. I think it's must-see TV tonight. It's been fun to watch.
It is must-see TV, and you know we talked about some, you know, Hodge thinks things aren't fixed, but I watched Game 1 and I'm not sure it's not fixed.
Intentional walk that goes bad.
Well, the intentional walk goes bad, and that was weird enough. But then the first time I've ever seen an umpire interference give somebody a base on a strike 3 call that was clearly a ball. You know, I mean, it was like, what was going on with all of that? But it's definitely exciting, and there's a whole lot of controversy with the way some of these rules are called and things that we're seeing. So it's added drama.
Look, I go back, but again, let's look at the 2 games. And really, I've watched probably, and I guess it's very similar to the College World Series. And I know, Josh, when we went to your house last Sunday, I guess it was, you had all the college baseball games on, which there's been some wild college baseball game endings as well. But it's probably very similar in that as we get closer to super regionals and get closer to Omaha, you start watching more. Well, I started watching a little bit more of what's happening in Oklahoma City, and I'm going to tell you, the Tennessee, UCLA, well, I mean, there's been some really good games in women's sports, and I put it in the rundown, is that they've kind of got a good little run from, if you think about what college women's basketball did, rolling into the WNBA, rolling into what we're seeing here in Oklahoma City. You just talked about it. Texas Tech Red Raiders get a break, if you will, on the obstruction call that happened twice. Once in the Oklahoma game where she got tagged in the face, and apparently that was not enough. We either felt bad for you, obstruction, you're safe, and you get the base. It happens again in their game. I don't know where the girl was supposed to tag her, and I'm here. I am all for Tech winning this thing.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't understand it. And I was at a place they were trying to explain it to me. Well, if you're here, I'm like, just because you say it louder doesn't make it a rule that should be ever in place. And then last night they bounced back, and I loved how Kennedy said, you know what? That's on me. Let's talk about Game 1, the intentional walk. Why? 2 things. One, why not just throw it in there? Just put it
I love having to actually pitch.
Okay.
Because of that, because a pitcher will sail one to the backstop. They'll throw one close enough to hit. You know, like it should be part of the game. I hate to just like, all right, they go to first base, and save some time or whatever. And it's a 1 in a million. But I mean, you have to execute everything. You know, like you can't take a pitch off intentionally walking someone. You know, because that ball was just grooved. You know, like.
But you know, and we played washers, and there's some people, the way they play washers is, you know, like Zach and them, you give if you're losing, you get the other remaining washers to try a tie, right?
Right.
Some, you just throw them, and you throw them where it's no chance to bust, no chance to roll that thing up there, make her hit it on, I mean, do anything.
Yeah, just sit there and it's a ball, but.
Because I think that's what I look at this situation, and again, Candy came back, said, it's on me, but it was funny because the first two pitches could have been hit. And it was almost like she knew exactly what she was doing, lull them in like, you know, those movies where the guy's got the snake and he's got them all and nobody's paying attention, lulls them to sleep, and then slaps that hit. There was 9 players not ready to play defense, including the pitcher. And then next thing you know, and momentum, and they done a really job. God goes yard to make it 2-2. There was a little that thing happens, and you're like, and now she's probably going to pitch 3, and I've got all the time to wrestle.
Well, no, and you're right about that intentional walk where the pitches were kind of close. It was a heads-up play by the batter to realize, like, she's throwing this hittable, you know, like, and, you know, standing there, she does it again, I'm gonna take a hack, you know, and it paid off.
Yeah, kudos to her, and I guess I go back to, you know, I wish they'd have just thrown to her in the beginning. Yeah, you got first base open, but the worst case scenario is she hits a 2-run single, which she does on the intentional walk. And, you know, you got the best pitcher in America, go ahead and just try to get the third out. They didn't do that, it backfired, but, you know, kudos to Tech. They bounced back last night, 4-3 win, and it's all for all the marbles here tonight.
Ain't big, and she's probably going to be in the circle and all those. But when I start looking at it, and we can dive into this part of dumb rules, does anybody understand obstruction? It's like it's become the new roughing the passer. Don't get in the way too much. You got to give a clear lane like you're bringing in an airplane on a runway to the base. I don't understand it. If you're listening right now, or if you're watching and you understand it more and can explain it to me and tell me why. I understand the Buster Posey rule. I get it. I understand the Buster Posey rule. But what I don't understand is the straight tags at second, at home. I don't get it. I am wide open.
Well, I can't really explain it, I mean, because trying to tag them out, so you kind of got to be in their way. And I get just like impede someone's ability to get to the base while you're getting the ball to tag them or whatever, you know, but that 1 foot being in front of the bag while you're catching the ball to apply the tag, and it's not even close, you know, it's not like I don't get it. I think it's very, very overly judgmented. Judgmented? I don't know if that's a word. I guess there's just too much gray area for you to look at that and decide what is or isn't obstruction. You obviously brought that to our attention in that Texas high school, the state championship game, and y'all should look that up, and I'll let Andy talk about that. But if that's to the point of absurdity.
So last night, to give context to that championship game, Texarkana, Liberty, Ilo, and London are playing at Dell Diamond last night. At home, the catcher runner back to the coast, the third, and the runner changes directions back to home. The catcher has peeled off, just like you saw. He is standing in the infield grass. The runner makes a beeline to him and gives him 2 forearms to the chest, and the catcher's called for obstruction. Standing in the infield grass with intentionality by the runner to run into him. Obstruction is called, home plate is granted, the runner is safe.
I'm watching it now.
That video, it is very clear that the base runner changed his direction to run into a player who was not in the way. And they
give it the benefit of it.
Right. So it's like now they say it's a judgment call by the umpire. I think you could have just as easily made the judgment call that he left the baseline. Yeah, like other than to try to get a call. And that one is to the point of just being absurd. And I am very glad that London ended up still winning that game, because if they would have lost the state championship on that call, like the angst that their people would have felt would have lasted. I mean, when those kids were 80, they'd be sitting around talking about how they lost that game because of that call. So it's hard. It's one of those things. Also, when you think back, and Hodge mentioned they changed the rules in baseball. You can't block home plate. Because people got their legs broken, their concussions, and careers were altered because of it. And so they made a rule for player safety. And and that's what all this is. It is about player safety, but it's like it takes it too far. And the old school, like you wouldn't obstruct because like those guys didn't want metal spikes in their legs. Right. So you would stay out of the way because there were concussions for not staying out of the way. But now we want everybody to be safe. So any obstruction, and that's just like, I don't know, it's a little over the top. And like I mentioned earlier, they call that on that steal attempt there that they awarded the runner the base on umpire interference, and that was what I was like, I don't know that I have ever. I've watched a lot of baseball and softball, and I don't know that I've ever seen an umpire interference award somebody a base.
Yeah, there's just got to be some common sense in this. I get the letter of the law, and I understand that, and I respect, doing that. But, there's got to be some common sense to what we're back to the runner who's, at second obstruction call. She's not like fighting.
Right.
I mean, maybe the foot's in the base path, but the girl's not, the runner's not even in the base path yet. She's already been tagged out. So there's got to be some common sense to what we're doing here. Respect to the letter of the law, but come on, let's go.
Right, because if you are intentionally obstructing someone to get to the base while you're trying to get the ball to apply the tag, I see that. Okay, the runner can't get to the base because you have blocked it. But if you're tagging them, what's the point? I mean, it's I don't know. But Hodge, you're right. That is a rule that has to be addressed, and it probably will be, because it seems like
I think there's no way they can't get looked at.
Because the amount of recent just debacle that has come up with it is, yes, and that's got to be, if it's not addressed, it becomes well, you're going to see more of that high school play, people actively like looking for ways to make somebody in their way, just because I guess it's heads up as on the part of the base runner, but at the same time, it's gamesmanship that I don't like.
Have you seen the Utah Valley, Oregon one?
Oh, at the collision home plate?
Yes.
Yes.
So have you seen that one?
No, I'm gonna have to look it up.
Oh, I will send it to you. Great. I want Josh to watch it. Justin Noble sent this to me. Shout out to Justin. It's unbelievable. That are done. Continues after this. Okay. Q. Josh. On YouTube, you got to go all the way up minutes to watch it.
All right, hold on. Here you go. This is so play the play. Going out, he's ejected. The plate's blocked, but they're saying if he,
Well, first calling safe.
yeah, and then he's safe. It has the game in the bottom of the eighth too. and review it, and they say that it was ejected from the game. And it's tied the game at 7 in the bottom of the 8th.
The catcher got completely in his
Yeah,
way.
He looked, he throws his knee down to the ground.
Yeah,
right
he's
there.
blocking the play.
But they throw the runner out
That's,
on a ball he didn't catch.
yeah.
Like,
What was the base runner supposed to do?
yeah, but they said he
Okay, I don't know
initiated
if you
the
can hear this.
Yep.
Here's the explanation from the.
Did you see the one from last night? Isn't that crazy?
So not only do they call him safe, then out.
Yeah, and he couldn't play the next day either.
Yeah.
If he didn't go out of the base path.
That's such.
I mean, I don't know a dumber rule except
I got one more coming. I got one. Prop rule in college baseball. You see the ejection of Duke the other day?
No, what?
So, guy hits a home run, they have to wear it.
Oh, yeah.
Betters later, they score go-ahead run, hard hat, he comes out of the dugout. The rule is you can't have props outside the dugout. He
Oh.
gets ejected. He's got to miss one of each. All he does is high fives.
if you're at the home plate, she was out and she got help.
Yeah.
Right. Contact was malicious.
Is that explanation from the umpire of the college, Eugene Regional being red right now is not going through the airwaves because the coach from Oregon, another one of those, not obstruction, the plate to plate, look it up, Utah Valley, Oregon, play at the plate, ball goes through the catcher's hands, through the glove. He's in front of the next thing you know, the ball goes by, umpire plays become where we can replay just about anything. They go to replay it. Not only do they say they also say that now the runner is not only safe, is out and tossed because of the malicious slide. The obstruction rule, you mentioned it in high school, we've seen it, and now we're seeing it in baseball. It's absolutely gotten out of control.
Most definitely has, and that's, that play with that Oregon base runner. I see no way that he could avoid malicious contact because the catcher completely blocked the plate but did not have the ball.
Now, he could have hurdled like, all hurdled, right?
Yeah,
But so name them, what other there that somebody, and you mentioned it, Josh, it's gonna be looked at. You don't think, I mean, the horsepower rule, all these things, these rules have been changed for reasons, for health and safety and all that. The tush push survived another owners meeting, but when competition committee meets, obstruction may be number 1, number 2, and number 3 on the headline or the outline for the program.
well, I mean, yes, because it's just gotten so much publicity in a negative light, and it's changed outcomes of games that you never want as a, you know, as a league, you know, you don't want games to be decided on judgment calls that make everyone talk about it the next day. I mean, you like close games, you take, there are obviously calls that have to be made, some good, some bad, whether that's a pass interference or a ball strike or whatever, that becomes all the talk of everything. But when it's these very subjective kind of rules, I think that's just not the talk that you want.
Yeah, so I've got one. I'll bring another one up that I saw play out last week. And most of these rules, I think, are for player safety. I think they're, so there's good reasoning behind it. There's one now in college baseball. I don't know if you've seen it. To me, it came about to try to save the integrity of the game, not for player safety. And it's props in the dugout. And what I mean by that, in football, the turnover chain on the sideline. When the guy gets an interception, he goes and puts on the turnover chain, or now they basketball goals on the sideline, they get to dunk it or whatever. There's one in baseball now called the prop rule, where it was getting out of control, and teams had these props, like Tennessee has a mink coat, and they, and they were coming out of the dugout, it was getting out of control, and kind of, so the rule now is you can have props, but only in the dugout. As soon as they come out of the dugout, if anybody has a prop on, they come out of the dugout to celebrate, they're ejected from the game, and they miss the next game. Well, last Sunday, Duke and Oklahoma State are playing in the regional final in Athens. Georgia was already out, thank goodness. But Duke and Oklahoma State are playing. Duke's down 3. Guy hits a 2-run bomb to tie it. Well, Duke has a thing. When you hit a home run, you come to the dugout and you put on the hard hat. It's white. It's got the blue D on both sides. Got the blue stripe down the middle. You get to wear the hard hat when you hit the home run. Next guy gets on base, and then the next guy hits a RBI double to score the go-ahead run. The guy who had hit the home run takes 2 steps out of the dugout to give high five. That's all he's doing, but he's still wearing the hard hat. He gets ejected from the game. He's out. He can't play game 1 of the Super Regional. The law, was he breaking the law? Was he breaking the rule? There's just got to be some common sense to how you police this.
My problem is, and for that, unfortunately, and as a guy that referees basketball, when people start making rules, the judgment rules have got to start being less, because the majority of these have become judgment, or they write it in such a way that it puts the official in a bind, because in his defense, I follow the rule.
Right.
And if I don't, do I get deemed and not get another super regional?
Well, and that's one of those things also, you think about that, like, as an umpire, or whoever, I guess it's the umpire on the field that makes that call.
Yeah.
Like, so now you're not only calling ball, strike, safe, out,
Fair foul.
like, yeah, just your normal baseball stuff, but you've got to monitor kids coming out of the dugout, like, with a hard hat on. So I just think it could be missed, so this could not get caught. The other team does it, they get caught. And, you want to prevent taunting and stuff like the spilling out of the dugout gets a little bit, and that's why you make that rule. But then you can, like you say, you're the letter of the rule book.
And I understand, and again, in basketball last year, they added the flop rule. And I said all through the meetings, and ones I went to, I was like, why did we add a judgment call that's already difficult anyway? The block charge is already hard hard to call. Now you want me to determine whether it is acting or whatever. Just either adding start putting this like a basketball around the base. And if you tag somebody, you got to be outside the circle to go to tag them.
Right.
Because there's nowhere to go. Catcher in the it makes sense. I'm in front. I can judge that just a bit. The catcher that got out of the way did his job, and he gets out. Those are just the fact that we're adding these rules. Because it wouldn't surprise me, because we see it in high school basketball now. As you see it in college, you see it not so much in the NBA, but in college and high school. If somebody buries a three, what does everybody do? They jump up and they get excited. Now you want that three-man crew to make sure, I think that got touched the sideline. You're gone.
Yeah.
You had your towel on, you did this, and your towel came into the presence of the play. Adding the judgment calls, whether it's football, baseball, basketball, whatever it is absolutely terrible.
Well, yeah, I mean, because those because then it becomes hard as a coach or a player to know that, like, this official, calls it like kind of like that. So when are you right? When are you wrong?
Appreciate. So I may not like it, but again, I go back to basketball and baseball. There are referees that area know that we've got referees in our chapter. I don't think I'm going to get in trouble with this. That call it tighter. There's refs that let them play a little bit. In baseball, you probably can remember some of the balls you had playing in high school pitching. They like the corners. They like the low ball. Man, he always calls a high strike.
Yeah, and
then you adjust to it.
All you ever want is someone to consistently do the same thing.
Right.
Like if that pitch comes in and you're going to call it a strike, so now as a hitter, like, all right, I got to be ready for that. But if it's a ball last time, then a strike this time, that's when
where the frustration, like the Tech girl the other night, that got called looking. Of course, you'll tell your boys whether you can't let anything close on that third strike, because the one previous, if I'm not mistaken, he did call a strike. And so now you got to be ready. If you start flipping fucking around, that's the problem. Rules, a lot of them are going to be changed. Obstruction is going to, it's a new word. I mean, every time anything happened the other night, Texas hit a long fly ball that went foul. It looked like it was a homer, but it went foul. But man, I think that foul pole obstructed. Go ahead. That's a home run. It kept it from going yard. When we come back, one of the things I want to end the show on, getting ready coaches. We mentioned Mike Tomlin earlier, and what will that mean? He's been there a long time. Will Aaron Rodgers be that? But if you're in the NBA, it doesn't matter if you have a ring. He may be out the door as soon as possible.
Yeah, the big joke the other day that I heard was pitching a walk the girl. Everybody knows that. The batter obstructed the ball from getting to the catcher.
Yeah, right.
Obstructed that when she swung. Because she was intentionally walking her, so why did she obstruct catching that husband? That should have been.
That ball was way too much middle.
And 2 miles off the velocity of 2 miles an hour. That's a good thing.
I was thinking for this
old logo. I don't know how it's a long time. I stole it from your office. You remember back in the day, because I was just thinking about that, when I got that Taylor Electric, how long ago did y'all get these? I've had it for a long time. It was like, that was back when like getting a Yeti tumbler for some sort of like gift was like,
That was a big deal.
I mean, that was huge. There's 100 different, they're all basically the same. You could get a Yeti and then get like an Arctic and a Bison, and like the lid will all fit. You know, like they're like, you need another tumbler for the rest of your existence.
The girls went on Stanley.
Yes.
That's what we gave our nieces and stuff. I think I saw them like once or twice.
Yeah, because Molly had a, Yeti thermos thing, with the lid that flipped up, for her school cup. But now she needed a Stanley. Yeti is like, that's last year's deal,
Well, and I think that's what's funny is the now there's people out there that just want to be the BCG version of Stanley and say, hey, we're a little cheaper. It may not be as good, but it's a little cheaper, and it's going to be, you're still going to love it.
Well, and I think that also the thing that's kind of, they're all the same. Like, they're made in China, probably in the same factory.
Yep.
And like, this one's good, and then this one's going to Walmart to sell for $10, and this one went to, yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, the cups have changed again because Molly just bought, and I don't even remember what it was called. But it's the new fad, like, and this one's got a handle on the side, and like, my daughter is the type that like she asks for money for Christmas, like that's what she's asked for like the past 3 years, but then she never spends any of it. Like just, yeah.
Visions of a,
But no, she just wants to spend it. She's like, hey, will you buy me that? I'm like, well, it's like, but I want you to buy it about it. I'm not going to. Do you have a perfectly good cup to put water in? If you don't, I'm not buying another $40. She wanted it for next school year, which I was like, that's 2 months away.
it must be right if I'm saying it. It'd be one thing that I am right about. Don't forget to download, subscribe, rate, review the Hodgepodge podcast. Get your buddies, friends, and buddy's phone, and do that as well. And get Thursday back after tonight, taking off another series at home.
I don't know how you figure out the passcode, but I mean, maybe you're a hacker. Back in the day of the Nokia phone that you played Snake on, did anyone ever put your phone in a different language and you couldn't figure out how to get it back to the correct language?
Was fortunate not to have that happen, and I was not that mean to do that to somebody else.
Because mine got put into some sort of Chinese, Japanese, I don't know, like not Spanish, kind of maybe French or something like that. I had to take my phone to the post to get it put back in English.
I want you to download, or just encourage your friends to do it there so it'll save, so you don't put it in another language. But again, don't forget that. Congratulations to the Wall Hawks. They won a state championship yesterday.
My nephew's on that team. So.
in baseball, and so tomorrow, hopefully, Horns will win another one as well. Talk a whole lot about it, but Toledo got fired this week for the York game. He won over 226 or 226 the last two seasons, 2 seasons. They lose to right now the state finals. They were there for the first time like 20 plus. And he's fired. And 4 of those who win NBA championships have been Nick Nurse for the Raptors, Frank Vogel for the Lakers, Bolger for the Bucks, and Michael Malone for the Nuggets. Now, Tibbs hasn't won a championship. Coach, now you got to figure out what to do with that. Last week, and we got 5 minutes. Misty last week said you stay with that first round draft quarterback. How long do you stay with him before you say, hey, franchises, and it seems like the NBA is bigger than anybody. Do it with coaches. Ability. You finally get some success in New York since John Stark was hanging around and maybe out in Houston. I just have a problem. Maybe because I'm a former coach. Do you think you're going to get that much better?
Man, I don't know. You know, the NBA is such a different animal because I still wonder how much, you know, our coaches just driving a bus at the NBA level kind of mentality.
Oh, it's elevated AAU league.
Absolutely. So, you know, it's obviously an emotional decision because it comes so soon after their season comes to an end. Somebody's got to be the scapegoat. I don't know. It's so difficult. Who do you find to replace that that's going to have the same amount of success, at least in the here and now immediately? I don't know. But, you know, somebody's got to be the scapegoat in that thing. And, you know, it's not going to be the owner or the president or the general manager. So the next guy.
Or the players. They're not going anywhere. And I just look at it, you know, we look in the NFL, they take a little bit of time. Very rarely. We've seen it a couple of times in the NFL. We saw it with Coach Wilkes at Arizona, but that was because they got Kingsbury, and Kingsbury wanted, you know, Murray and all those things. You see it every once in a while, but not a lot. And I just have a problem with it when you start thinking, how much better are you really going to get? And I think the NBA probably has more power over their franchise than any other league does. I mean, LeBron's a prime example of that. He's ran off more coaches than you can shake a stick at. And it looks like his last coach will be J.J. Redick, and they're buddies. So I don't see that happening. But Frank Vogel won a championship in the bubble and not good enough. Darvin Ham, not good enough. I don't know what your thoughts. We got a couple minutes.
With kind of the players running the franchise as far as deciding who the coach is and stuff. I mean, you need input from the leaders on your team. You know, you don't want a situation where there's dysfunction. I mean, I get that, but you talk about Tomlin. You know, Aaron Rodgers has sunk a few just on his own.
He's lost some of that pull.
Obviously, he's lost that pull because he's like way past his prime. But it worked last year, so I don't know. But it's the old school. Coach is always right. You know, like we're gonna pull this bus over and you're gonna run the rest of the way for the way you're acting type of stuff. You know, like that.
But if we think about it, we got a minute. I mean, that if you those that are teach right, the coach was right, the administration was right. Now, it's not the case. It is not the case anymore where the coach or the teacher is right, the respect is there. I think it's whatever. It's like kids. If you don't like it, I'll get mad. I want another coach or trade him. And they're going to trade. They're going to get rid of that coach, and you're going to stay put. And again, obviously, with this, you don't even have to be a stud. I mean, some of even the not top players are getting that done, and I just have a hard time. And I hope Tibbs. I kind of want the Oklahoma City to win it, but it wouldn't bother me to see the Patriots do it. And then now the Tibbs firing is even worse. Hey, appreciate it. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Josh. We'll be back
Yeah.
next week. Don't forget, June 12th, Hot Pack Night at the Abilene Flying Bison. Bison keep the streak going tonight. We'll be back next week.
All right, see y'all later. I'm gonna
Good
run to work.
stuff. Good
Yeah,
stuff.
very good to see you, Andy.
You too, Jeff.
Talk to y'all soon.
All right, see you.